We continue to support Ukraine financially, politically, with weapons. We want Ukraine to win this war, to win peace. That is why we have made clear that Ukraine belongs also to the European family. And the Commissioner President Ursula von der Leyen said this morning that the European Commission on Ukraine's reform effort shows that Ukraine is making commendable progress despite the war. And Ukraine will eventually become a member of the European Union. With our partners, we are also working towards greater political and practical cooperation between Ukraine and NATO. And my colleague Minister for Development, Svenja Schulze, and I have come today here to underline that rebuilding.
Do you see when they basically film the audience, like 3 people clapped, the rest, I don't know if they were taking notes or they just didn't care about what she said or they completely disagree. Even the person that was pointed by the camera, she was like, should I clap or no? I mean, the amount of contradictions on her speech. Is she even qualified for this position? The first thing she said, we're giving weapons to Ukraine because we want Ukraine to win this war. Right after that, we want Ukraine to win peace. That makes no sense whatsoever. If you want peace, you don't give weapons to a country in which thousands are dying every month on your behalf, because they're sending weapons, but they are not sending soldiers to Ukraine. So the Ukrainians are getting the weapons and they're effectively using them against the Russians. But that's all they gain. Giving weapons is not enough. We've seen that in the last counter-offensive, which lasted for, a couple of weeks, no more than that. Because now they just ran out of ammo. They just ran out of everything the West has given them to launch the counter-offensive. But according to her, they'll continue giving weapons. Even Ursula von der Leyen, she confirmed all the way to 2027, they'll continue financing the war in Ukraine and subsidizing the Ukrainian government. So she wants peace by giving weapons, by imposing sanctions on Russia. But in history, countries find peace when they sit down, they stop the fighting, and they reach an agreement, which is something that Ukraine and Russia were working for back in April 2022, until these kind of wars came to Ukraine, whispering, we'll support you, we'll give you weapons, we'll finance you all the way to 2027. And then they decided to continue the war against Russia. Lose more territory, lose more manpower, lose more equipment to the state in which they are today. They're just asking every single country in the world to give them weapons, finance, and support. Even an African delegation went all the way to Kiev. They visited Bucha with Mr. Zelensky, and he asked them for support. They did say, okay, mate, that's fine. Let us speak with Putin as well. Let's see what he's got to say. What Putin did, he showed them something that he'd already showed in 2022. Those who did not see that, they're not up to date, or they were not up to date. But there were the terms agreed between Russia and Ukraine of the withdrawal of the Russian troops from the region of Kiev, and after the peace. But the Ukrainians did not. They did agree in peace by the withdrawal of the Russian troops, but they did not implement it. Therefore, the war continued, and the Russians decided to focus in eastern Ukraine, which is closer to home, and continue advancing through that front. So, if she really wants peace between these two countries, she wouldn't be just playing the drums of war, isn't it? Because this is what she's actually doing. This is what she's been doing throughout her career. So, this one, she's part of the Green Party in Germany, I believe, which were anti-war as far as I'm concerned. But soon as she became part of the cabinet, because there is a coalition in Germany, soon as she became part of the cabinet, she just fell into that narrative. Warmongering, sending more weapons, sending more money to Ukraine, just to ensure that you win a war against Russia. How can you win a war against Russia? Is the entire EU capable of winning a war against Russia? We see NATO, what they're doing. What is NATO doing? They keep saying we're supporting Ukraine and all that, but what they're doing, what they have done so far is sending money and weapons. Some mercenaries, and they're sitting in command centers in Kiev or Western Ukraine. But they're not taking part or actively part in the war. They're just sending what they call volunteers, which are mercenaries. But apart from that, they're not sending the troops. They are not sending the troops. NATO is a paper tiger. And Ukraine is losing soldiers every day. Okay? So, I don't know. I did show you full speeches from this conference in the reconstruction of Ukraine using or stealing Russian assets. Let's see what's next. We'll continue informing you.